Good morning and welcome to the March 26, 2019 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We're glad you're with us today. As always, we will begin with an invocation, and Amy Call, who's Associate Pastor of Chapel Hill Methodist Church, is with us to lead us in prayer. Please stand.
Good morning, and let us pray together. Holy God, as we come before you in this meeting, we pray for your guidance and your love. Lord, may we consider all of these reports through your eyes and through the lens of your responsibility that you give us all. We pray for your blessings to be here, and for in all ways we follow you. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Southern.
Here.
Magistrate Moran.
Here.
Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate McCollum.
Here.
Magistrate Berry.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have in front of you the minutes of the March 12, 2019 Fiscal Court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other clarifications, additions, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have with us this morning Rob Brown, a good friend of our court, and a representative of Keiko's Insurance Division, who handles our property and casualty insurance, among some other things. And Rob suggested that he come visit us and explain, especially for new members of the court, what Keiko's responsibility is with our coverages and delineate some of those coverages. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Rob.
Thanks so much, Judge. Good morning, everyone. Thanks
Good morning.
for allowing me the opportunity to come down and speak to you about Keiko's Insurance. For those of you who I've not met, I think I've met everyone, but not in depth. My role for you is to help you manage the insurance for Keiko. That's the property and liability and work comp insurance for all of your operations. What I wanted to do today, and I'm sure you all can see this on your screens, is to have a chance really to speak broadly about Keiko and then narrow that down into some of the enhancements that the program is doing, including the financial benefits that you all will be enjoying from that. Keiko, as you may know, is much more than insurance. It's really a shining example of interlocal cooperation across our Commonwealth. The insurance programs are just one part of that. Keiko offers loan programs, member service training. You all will see those as you become more acclimated into the leadership continuing education components. And then Keiko offers lobbying on your behalves for the interest of our membership. So this is actually from a headline in 1986 from Time magazine saying, hey, good news, guys, everybody's insurance is canceled. Keiko got into the insurance business because the private insurance carriers basically were pulling out of the marketplace for county governments. Back in 1978, workers' compensation was either unavailable to our members or was so expensive that no one could afford it. So Keiko formed at the time with the Kentucky League of Cities a insurance pool for workers' compensation back in 1978. In 1987, the same issue appeared, as you can see from that headline, of in the property and liability world. What we were finding is that our county governments couldn't purchase law enforcement liability. They couldn't purchase errors and omissions for the boards, and that was becoming a mega problem. So again, Keiko stepped forward and formed their second pool, which is called the Keiko Alliance Fund, or we'll call it CAF. You'll hear us say KALF. So where we stand now, I began with the program back in 1998. We had 67 fiscal courts at that time out of 117 of the 120 eligible groups. In 2003, we had grown to 96, and for really about the last 10 years, we've had 113 of the 117 that are eligible. 3 aren't eligible. They're their own self-insured operation. That's Fayette County, Jefferson County, and Kenton County. But of the 117, 113 are currently in the program. So the program was built effectively for fiscal courts, by fiscal courts. But starting really about in 98, we started to see that the applicability for the program was much broader than just county governments. So in that time, we have brought in right around another 700 other entities of local government: libraries, community actions, transits, airports, planning and zoning boards, extensions, conservation districts, water districts. And what we've realized is that this program, although built for fiscals, provides these guys with essentially the same broad coverage that you all enjoy too, with the advantage of owning the program. You all own this program as members. So how big is the program right now? Well, we insure about $6 billion in property across the Commonwealth, budgets of around $2 billion, payroll in the just short of $800 million, 13,000 plus vehicles, 22,000 plus employees, over 6,000 officers, and again, 113 of the 117 fiscal courts, and about 700 of the non-fiscals. So what does this all mean? Essentially, when you all are investing in your program, CAECO, you expect fiduciary management of that premium revenue. In an ideal world, CAECO would charge exactly what is needed for claims, and then go year to year and just have it perfectly balanced. But we know that that's impossible in the realm of risk and premiums. So essentially, year to year, CAECO's goal is to charge just enough premium. The goal is to break even and put away a little rainy day money. And you can see in the measurement of insurance programs, a carrier that's operating at a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning $1 premium to $1 of members' equity or rainy day money, is by any measure financially sound. You can see in our CAF side of the equation with our total premium, $40 million, our surplus, $43 million. We're roughly at the 1-to-1, a little bit stronger than 1-to-1.
And you might explain what CAF stands for.
Sorry, that's the CAECO Alliance Fund. So again, that's the property and liability program. Thanks, Judge. On the work comp program, you can see that our annual premium is $26 million with members' equity of 42. So that's much stronger than a 1-to-1. And it leaves to the question, okay, well, what happens when you have a much stronger position? Well, there's 2 reasons that we got into this position. One was last year, House Bill 2 was passed that essentially counteracted a terrible decision out of the Kentucky Supreme Court that was going to allow not only a lifetime medical for workers' compensation, which is one of the reasons that Kentucky's work comp system is the way it is, but they were also going to allow a lifetime indemnity. So essentially, it was going to fix the pension system by allowing workers' comp to apply to an injured worker forever for their lifetime. So House Bill 2 counteracted that. And what that led to, because of that decision, we had to move approximately $6 million of members' equity into pay the long-term reserve for this Supreme Court decision. Well, when that happened, when House Bill 2 came about, we moved the money right back into members' equity, which led to this kind of lopsided piece. So what do we do now with that money? So there's 4 uses for members' equity. You can offer new services, and we've done that. We've engaged actually Jennifer Burnett, who is our CAECO analyst, and she provides some incredible information for in support of economic development and details. We took her from the Council of State Governments and put her into a CAECO role, broader than insurance, but also driven for the member services. We can offer new coverage, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. We can offer premium stability and control. So the Workers' Comp Board this fall announced that they wanted to use $2 million of that members' equity to essentially help to control rates. So if any of our rates were moving awkwardly against the members' premium, we were going to use $2 million to help smooth those out. And then finally, you can offer a dividend back to the members. So the Workers' Comp Board also voted to have a $3 million dividend come back to the membership for the 06-07 policy year. So if you were in the program in 06-07, which you all were, you had 130% loss ratio or less, which you all did, you're eligible for the dividend. And I'm proud to say that on August 1st, you all will be receiving a dividend of just a smidge over $23,000 from the Workers' Comp program. So why is this important? In essence, when the commercial carriers who are held by shareholders, owned by shareholders, when their carriers do well, the money goes to shareholders in New York and Chicago and around the globe. When your program does well, the money comes back to you. It's either invested in your programs or it's invested back into dividends. So this is in essence the program working. So I mentioned the new coverage offerings as well. CAECO within our program offers you the property and liability and the work comp and the law enforcement coverage and cyber liability and employment practices coverage just as part of our core package. In the last year, we've also provided the ability to add coverage for drones in the event that you do have a drone. For violent event coverage, we all know, unfortunately, that those issues are happening across not only the United States, but here too close in our fine Kentucky. So we provide coverage for that. We've increased our amount of defense we provide for our elected officials in the program up to $200,000. In the event that you're accused of any sort of a wrongdoing. We provide planning and zoning, defense, and damages coverage. We had always traditionally just provided a defense for injunctive relief actions, essentially change your decision of what you're doing. We've decided not only are we going to provide a defense for that, but also damages in the event that damages are shown from a planning and zoning related case. That's land use planning or municipal zoning. We added another coverage. We actually clarified our coverage around failure to supply. We also added, and it's not on the list there, coverage for sexual molestation. We had been providing that coverage under our E&O for failure to screen, failure to supervise, failure to do those kinds of things because most cases are presented that way. But we decided to provide clarity around we are providing sexual molestation coverage. You all have those exposures, whether it's at parks or whether it's at our detention centers and jails. So we wanted to include and make sure that coverage was in there. And then new this year, we're providing an investigation defense for our deputies. In many cases, in an officer-involved shooting, an allegation is immediately brought that was a criminal act. We will be providing $5,000 of defense for our officers involved in those incidents immediately. We expect that to be on the ground within hours of an issue. We felt that to be an important issue. I know many of our sheriff's departments have been purchasing that coverage outside of CAECO. So we wanted to provide that internally. And then affecting everyone, we were going to provide new car replacement. I know everyone's seen those flashy ads on TV. They're kind of funny, where the guy throws his keys in the river behind him because all the depreciation in his brand new vehicle. Well, we were having those same issues of our members being upset about a new vehicle that's driven off the lot and it's suddenly worth 45% less than what it was when you purchased it. So for vehicles that are under 2 years old, under $100,000 in value, and under 40,000 miles on the odometer, we will provide a new car replacement, no questions asked. So that's a big part of this. And going back to how does this apply to the members' equity? Well, we did all of these changes without changing $1 of premium charge. We're not charging any additional for these because we feel these are just an ongoing improvement for the policy. The drone is the only one that we do have a small charge for, and primarily because drone liability in particular is really a new area of risk for most insurance companies. We wanted to be able to provide the coverage, but we charge, I think it's either $450 or $700 per drone for the coverage. But right now, we may go away from that in the future, but in the near term, we just felt it prudent to have some premium for that risk until really the industry gets a better idea of the risks facing drones. So all that comes to you all as part of using your members' equity to improve the program. So the one thing for sure to leave with from this discussion is CAECO is a member-owned program. You all are the shareholders. You all benefit when CAECO does well. And in times when your claims are going the wrong way, the other members get to carry the water for you all. That's part of the pooling process. When other members' claims are going the wrong way, you all get to carry the water a little bit. It's a great middling of the claims process in amounts for the membership, but ultimately it leads, we feel, to stability and to a point where we have total flexibility on the way you pay premiums. It's a member benefit driven program. So if you leave with nothing today, that's for sure the thing to have. So that's all I have.
Leave it open for a couple quick questions. I am going to ask Rob to stick around after the meeting is over, and maybe anybody who'd like to get a little bit more detail from Rob and meet him personally afterwards, feel free to do that. But does anybody have any questions right now?
Just a comment, Judge. Rob, we appreciate everything you guys do. We've had a great experience with you, and looking forward to maybe continuing those good experiences. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mr.
Good
President.
job.
Thank you.
I would just like to reiterate that, of course, as a county attorney, I got sued twice. They represented me. Hadn't done anything wrong, but doesn't mean people can't sue you. And they represented us and took care of both claims, and I appreciate it. It was.
I'd also say sign us up for that drone coverage. We have
Well,
a drone.
with the drone park, we probably, we're going to have some training sessions coming up.
I'm
actually.
blinded, so you need a lot
Yeah,
of
so hold on the coverage now.
We have people that just went to a class down in Mayfield to get their official FAA license. You almost have to be able to fly a plane, to fly a drone, and they pass their test, so we're in that process.
Right.
I think that's critical that you have licensed people flying the drone. I just wanted to say quickly, especially to our new people on the court, one really good thing about CAECO that we appreciate law enforcement is they have a lot of preventive training. They have a firearms simulator, and they also have a driving simulator that they'll bring down free of charge. Our two greatest liabilities in law enforcement is shooting someone or having a car wreck. And they provide a lot of training for our employees that we would have to send them away for, and it would cost us a lot of money. They'll bring it right to Henderson County. So I really appreciate the training aspect on you trying to help our employees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And please hang out afterwards. And please feel free. I think Rob could probably leave you some business cards. If you ever have any questions about coverage or CAECO, Rob's a great resource. And I will reiterate what the other two magistrates said. We love working with you, and we appreciate the time you take to be here, too, not just answer our phone calls. So thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the approval of contracts with Cytex. And if I'm not mistaken, if Mr. Hubiak could step to the podium for a second. Remind me, were these part of the bidding process for these services, Bill?
Excuse me, Judge, say again.
Were these part of the bidding process for these services?
No, they
Or
were.
they're an ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cytex has provided custodial supplies and things like that for this building and the Judicial Center, and we're basically renewing that contract.
And the road department, too.
In the road department.
For how long a time?
I think it's been on and off for the last 20 years, Mr. McCollum.
I just mean for how long is this
This
contract
is
for?
4-year contract?
It's a 4-year contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. 4
Right, the term of
It's
it.
the remainder of the term.
Yeah. So they've done well for us. The pricing has been appropriate, and we're just re-upping their services for what they've done in the past. So,
Judge, I would also like to point out, Cytex typically in their contracts, they have some things like some automatic renewals and things like that, and that's something obviously that the fiscal court can't do, so I appreciate we had an opportunity to sit down with Mr. Mack and folks from Cytex and work that out, and they did adjust their contracts to something that the fiscal court actually could sign and wasn't any sort of problem, so I appreciate the steps they took.
That being said, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, and we'll get those signed copies to you. You have in your packets a resolution. We've talked about this in a couple past couple meetings, but we, as part of the DLG requirement to request coal severance funds for the matching portion of the airport project and the FAA grant, we need to pass a resolution to that effect that you support the pursuit of coal severance funds, and that's what this resolution is all about. Anybody have any questions before I have the clerk read this resolution? Again, it's a requirement of DLG, pretty perfunctory. And I will have Mr. Clerk read the resolution.
Resolution authorizing the filing of Kentucky Local Government Economic Development Fund project proposal grant application for up to $350,000 in local government economic development single county funds with the Department for Local Government, DLG, authorizing and directing the Henderson County Judge Executive to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by DLG to carry out this project, and authorizing the Judge Executive to act as the authorized correspondent for this project.
Does anybody need us to read the rest of the details into the record, or you think the summary is sufficient?
I'm okay with it.
I'm good, Judge.
The summary? Okay. Again, this is all the things we've discussed before, but as per DLG requirement, we're doing this. So I'll entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Passes unanimously. If you remember, we talked before with Mr. Hubiak about establishing a speed limit of 25 miles per hour on Ohio Drive, especially as crews work on that road to widen it and to make it safer for those crews, which will be there for quite some time. We have an ordinance to that effect, and Before I have the clerk read the ordinance, and we're going to read this one in full, anybody have any comments or questions, or Mr. Hubiak, do you want to comment or anything more about this?
Yes, Judge. I had this request at our last fiscal court meeting and got in touch with Mr. Gold. We put together the ordinance here to reduce the speed limit from 55 miles an hour unposted to the 25 miles an hour requested. The reasons are given in the ordinance, congestion, volume of traffic, semis, and just the narrowness of the road that we're trying to correct. The volume of traffic, it's a safety hazard. So
It's safe to say that literally hundreds and hundreds of vehicles use that every day.
that is correct.
Yeah.
And I would say the statute that we're going under here is KRS 189-390, and it allows counties to set speed limits for their roads, but it also talks about what the speed limits are for unposted areas on state-maintained highways. And for business districts like this, it sets the speed limit for a state road such as this, if it were not posted otherwise, at 35. So were it a state road, it would already be 35, so this would only be lowering it down 10. But since it's a county road, when it's unposted, it's 55, and that's definitely a scary thing out on that particular narrow roadway.
Ed, are you in agreement with that?
Yes, sir, and after the ordinance is passed, we'll go out there occasionally and work radar. If we don't have any enforcement, it's useless.
Yeah.
We'll go out there occasionally, but nothing else for visibility.
Thank you.
We already have the signs in stock to be posted once the second reading has occurred and it becomes passed into law.
And for the record, our sheriff agreed
Yeah.
to the premise of this.
How many signs does that take, Bill? I mean,
What?
how many signs, speed limit signs?
We
I'm
ordered,
just for my-
we ordered a dozen. We're going to post them on both sides of the road, and so there will be no misunderstanding what the speed limit is while we're out there, because we want to make sure that everybody is aware from front to back in the county limits.
Do you have any of those lights that flash where you could put that up initially so people would recognize that this
We
is?
do not have that.
Okay.
Will this change back to 35 after
That
you're
will be
completed?
up to the fiscal court at that time once the construction is completed.
Yeah, it's hard to craft an ordinance where it would automatically snap back at a certain time. It would take another ordinance passed.
Any further questions from Mr. Hubiak? I'll have Mr. Clerk read the ordinance, please.
Ordinance amending 230-15 of the Henderson County Code of Ordinances and establishing a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on the entire length of CR 1365, also known as Ohio Drive, lying outside the city limits of Henderson County. Whereas KRS 189.3905A grants the county the power to establish speed limits for roadways within its jurisdiction by ordinance. Whereas the Fiscal Court of Henderson County has been requested to establish a speed limit of 25 miles per hour on the CR 1365, also known as Ohio Drive, for the entirety of said road, which lies outside the corporate limits of the city of Henderson County, Henderson, Kentucky. Whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court finds the aforementioned roadway is a narrow, dead-end road in a high congested industrial area with numerous business entrances that is traveled by many semi-trucks and passenger vehicles on a daily basis. Whereas the Fiscal Court is desirous of providing for the safety of persons using said road, and whereas the Fiscal Court deems that a speed limit of 25 miles per hour would most adequately provide for such safety. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Fiscal Court of the County of Henderson of the Commonwealth of Kentucky that, number 1, 230-15 of the Henderson County Code of Ordinances is hereby amended to include CR 1365, also known as Ohio Drive, for the entirety of said road, which lies outside the corporate limits of the city of Henderson, Kentucky, on the list of the county roadways with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. Number 2, no operator of a vehicle upon CR 1365, also known as Ohio Drive, for the entirety of said road, which lies outside the corporate limits of the city of Henderson, Kentucky, shall drive at a greater speed than is reasonable and prudent for regular street traffic and for the condition and use of said road, but in no event shall exceed 25 miles per hour. Number 3, all or parts of ordinances in conflict herein are repealed to the extent of such conflict. Number 4, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage, approval, and publication as provided by law.
And just a clarification there, the reason the wording talked about that portion of it which lies outside the city limits is there's that little bit of that front section that is within the city limits of the city of Henderson, and we can't set the speed limit there, so it has to start once it gets into the county part, which the vast majority of it is, but there's just that initial portion. So I couldn't write it as saying all of Ohio Drive.
So I entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, how far is that's got the city?
Less than 1/10 of a mile, just a few hundred yards. From Green Street to the railroad spur.
Okay.
Just past the railroad spur.
Yeah.
Right at the, Ogden Mills.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Again, any other questions? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Berry?
Aye.
Magistrate Southern?
Aye.
Magistrate Moran?
Aye.
Magistrate Putman?
Aye.
Magistrate McCollum?
Aye.
Thank you. We have with us this morning Mike Jones, who's the new Executive Director of the Humane Society of Henderson County and who also will oversee our animal control efforts. And we welcome him and any other member of the staff to go over the twice monthly report. And we appreciate the work that you did, Bridget, to help get this ready and take over in the absence of an Executive Director. So, Mike?
Good morning, Magistrates. Judge Snyder. This being my first fiscal court, I'm going to yield to Bridget Kilgore. She's our shelter manager to present the animal control reports.
Hi.
Good morning.
Bridget. Well, we're excited to have our new director, so that's been great. Our numbers at the shelter have been a little low as of last month, but we had a lot that went out to foster to adopt, so they'll be getting adopted out this month. We have a lot of rescues that have started to pull from us new, so we're very excited about that. Two of the animal control officers, we have went to CACA training 2 weeks ago. We learned a lot. A lot of new laws have came through, and they're fighting for some new ones, so I'm hoping we can start on new ordinance here too. We do have our newest animal control officer that is at NACA training, and she went as of Monday, and she'll be back Friday, and that's the first modular, and there's 3 to complete the series. Our Powerball case has cleared up so far, knock on wood. So everything's looking up so far.
And that final animal control officer hire, are you now full? Have all the slots filled?
I think we're going to be hiring a part-time in between, but other than that, I think we'll be good.
Terrific. Any other questions of Ms. Kilgore? We do welcome Mr. Jones. Glad you're with us. Please feel free to contact Fiscal Court at any time. I think it's safe to say that a lot of magistrates get calls about animal control issues. It's not uncommon. And I try not to answer those until I refer them to your office or get information from your office. But the key there is back and forth communication. And normally, with a little bit of logical explanation, the folks who call in seem pretty satisfied with that. But I know it's a tough job. We appreciate all you do. Any other comments or questions?
Well, again, I always like to see you on the plus side in your money situation, so you're moving in the right direction. I know you'd like to see a lot more as we would too, so we'll keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jailer Brady, do you have anything for a detention center report?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Judge, I gave you the paper for the one bid that we had. That was for the camera system. County Attorney Steve Gold and I discussed it a while back about expanding the cameras at the jail and upgrading them, and we can pay for that out of the commissary profit account. We only had one bid, and actually that's the person that handles our control system now. So everything would tie in. And if it's okay, I would like to go ahead and move forward so we can get our cameras back up and where they need to be.
Any other comment from the jail committee on this?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. I'd only ask Mr. Gold, everything in order with as far as you're concerned.
The bid specs were, when I reviewed them, it was advertised in accordance with law and all of that. Okay. I will say that there have been a few events that have come up that have underscored the need for additional cameras, of higher resolutions and in more places there. And every time one of those comes up, people seem to be really creative about finding where cameras aren't. So this is going to, as far as the number of cameras, it's going to go from what to what?
It will almost triple the number of cameras
That's
that we have.
what I was thinking, that it was really going to cut down that.
We have motion second we have a second to approve. Yes. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Anything else? I noticed we broke ground on the groundwork on the building site.
They are. They're actually working today. They're trying to get ready to pour the footers.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move any farther, I want to recognize a young man who's with us and may have to leave before we got to that point. So, Connor, is that correct? Would you please come up to this microphone? And Bill, would you help pull that microphone down to where I can ask Connor a question? Would you introduce yourself, please, to the member?
I am Connor
What's your last name, Connor?
McLaughlin.
Connor McLaughlin? You're a Boy Scout?
Yes, I
Good.
am a Weeblo.
Weeblo, excellent. And are you visiting us today just to kind of watch how government works?
I am actually doing this for a merit badge, I'm pretty sure.
And probably a government merit badge, right?
I don't exactly know.
Okay.
I'm just supposed to, come here.
All right. Well, you've achieved your goal. You can mark that box off. I hope you get your marriage. Please take a picture and send it to me when you get your marriage badge. I'd love to see that.
Okay.
And I want to thank you for coming by today. And you're always welcome to come to fiscal court whenever you have a chance and maybe learn even more. And I appreciate you coming up to this podium. I know you maybe didn't expect to do that, but you sound like a very well-spoken young man, and I really am glad you're in Boy Scouts and Weebelows, so keep up the good work.
I have one more thing to say.
Sure.
Keiko sounds like a really good program.
Wow.
Rob's going to sign you up as a spokesman.
That will be on our video.
Yeah. You gotta love it, Rob Brown.
And Connor, I agree with you. I agree with you. So thank you and good luck.
Connor, nice to have met you. Connor interviewed me before court. He had to ask some questions for his merit badge, and he took care of that.
Thank you,
You're very
Charles.
welcome. Thank you.
One other thing, Connor. The sheriff has a deputy that is an Eagle Scout. And when I worked at the sheriff's office, I sent him out several times to talk to Boy Scouts and organizations like that. And if you wanted him to do that, you contact the sheriff's office. I bet the sheriff would send him to do that. He's really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of the sheriff, you have the sheriff's monthly report in your packets. Anything to add to that, Mr. Brady? After a period of review of the sheriff's report, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I move we accept the report, Judge.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Mr. Sheriff Brady's here if you have any. Okay, no questions. All those in favor of accepting the Sheriff's Department report signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And now, County Clerk Bernice Abner with her monthly report.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I hate to follow Connor. He was so cute and did such a great job. I have the report for February 2019, and it's excess fees in the amount of $89,391.19, and the total amount for February 2019 remitted to the county, $121,676.24. And this compared to February 2018 is up by $12,490 in excess fees. So we're doing well, and March looks to be booming as well. We have had a line in our office every day this month, so March is historically very busy for us. So
I was going to ask if the yearly budget for your receipts to the county is trending more towards meeting
it
that
is.
number.
It is.
Yeah, excellent. I know we needed a strong February and March to
Yes,
make up a little ground, and it sounds like we are.
We are.
So, any other questions of
Move to
Treasurer
accept.
Renisa?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this report. Any other questions of Renisa? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
very much. Mr. Gold, your report.
Judge, I've got several checks today. First being salaries, FICA, and retirement, $759.28. Supplement to Assistant County Attorney's salary, $458.33. Dental and life insurance, $479.54, and $1.94. Health insurance, $8,737. Another $160.86, and Aflac $124.94, bringing today's total to $10,721.89, and the fiscal year total to date to $113,772.20.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Mr. Gold? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Treasurer Brenda Ryder, and come up with a couple claims and some fund transfers, and we'll also be reading a couple budget amendments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
These are the bank balances after paying claims today. Your day-to-day appropriation lines should be at approximately 75%. I have some additional claims. From the general fund to Pinnacle Computer Services in the amount of $10,140. This is to come from the IT services appropriation line, and that is for a high availability firewall and maintenance on all the firewalls. From the road fund to John Zahn Wildlife Animal Control in the amount of $500. This is to come from the Parks and Program supply line, and this is for some animal trapping at Sandy Lee Watkins and Freedom Parks. From the LGEA fund to the jail canteen in the amount of $8,032.50, and this is for the this will come from the Kentucky State Treasurer's Grant Solid Waste line item, and this is for the 2019 litter abatement services. The total for this grant received was about $35,000, so it will be distributed accordingly.
Any other questions on claims? Finance Committee reviewed these claims yesterday in addition to our budget to date. Any other comments from our
No.
Finance Committee?
Unless anybody's got any questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
And I second it.
Motion and a second to approve claims. Again, any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you on that. Okay.
Okay, I have one line item transfer to fiscal court conferences and training, $6,000, and that is being transferred from the fiscal court health insurance line item. And this is to redistribute the appropriation lines with the change of the new court.
The new court and this is absolutely appropriate, but because of the new court, we've asked you, and you've taken advantage of attending more conferences than what is normally the case with fiscal courts who've been here a while. And we're glad you're taking the time to do that. I'm sure you've learned a lot. So it cost us a little bit more than we had initially budgeted. So this is a chance to cover those expenses. Again, we absolutely want you to go to all the conferences you think you need to learn more about being a magistrate, being a good magistrate, and helping county government. And on the flip side of that, because of the changeover, we have fewer expenses in health insurance now, because not all of you are taking county health insurance. So that was a logical place to go move some money from.
I'd so move to.
She's gonna read one more transfer.
I have one more. I have a cash transfer to the LGEA fund from the state grants fund in the amount of $35,713.39. This is regarding the 2019 litter abatement grant I just referenced. Because of the accelerated use of this grant, I'm asking to transfer the deposit into the LGEA fund where it corresponds with the budgeted appropriation.
And just to clarify that a little bit, we're moving a little faster on this grant than we anticipated. I think we anticipated paying for it in the next fiscal year,
Yes.
but they're moving more quickly, so which is good, but we have to account for it in this
And
fiscal year.
these grants are calendar year compared to the court's fiscal year, so there's always some overlap.
Okay, I'd move to approve all those transfers.
I second.
You have a motion and a second. Any other questions about those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Now you want to remind everybody what the two readings of ordinances were.
This is the second reading for two budget amendments. The first is increasing the jail fund by $955,000 from the prior year carryover line. The corresponding for this is increasing the jail debt service in the amount of $955,000. This is for the Jail Series 2012 bond defeasance and setting aside an escrow account to satisfy this debt.
Everybody remember that? We really appreciate Jayla Brady helping us with this and understanding the benefit to her annual budget, which will certainly help. And before we read the ordinance, anybody else have any questions? Mr. Clerk, this will be second reading.
An ordinance relating to the annual budget and amendment thereof, whereas the County of Henderson has realized unbudgeted receipts from the Jail Series 2012 bond defeasance, purchasing securities for deposit into an escrow account held by a designated bank, such that principal, interest, and associated costs are sufficient to meet payments due until bond payment requirements are satisfied. Be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of the County of Henderson, Commonwealth of Kentucky, Section 1, the budget for fiscal year 2018-2019 is amended to increase the receipts of the jail fund by $955,000 to include unbudgeted receipts from account 034901, which is prior year carryover, by $955,000. Increase expenditure account 037100-601, which is the jail debt service, by $955,000. The amounts of the adjusting receipt and expenditure accounts in Section 1 are for government purposes.
Take a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Masher McCollum?
Aye.
Masher Berry?
Aye.
Masher Putman?
Aye.
Masher Moran?
Aye.
Masher Southern?
Aye.
Thank you. Now the second reading of the next ordinance.
The next budget amendment is reducing or decreasing the Economic Development Fund by $50,000 of the line, the TVA Economic Development Funds, also decreasing the appropriation line of the regional EDC Kendall. This was originally budgeted as TVA funds that were expected to be run through the county, but with changes that will go directly to the agency.
Right. The legislation passed at the state that appropriated these funds It became clear later that they would not have to go through a court, that they would go directly to the designated economic development agencies, of which ours is Kindle. So we're making this adjustment to truly reflect the money that actually went through the county. So any questions about that? I'll have Mr. Clerk read the ordinance.
An ordinance relating to the annual budget and amendment thereof, whereas the County of Henderson has not realized budgeted receipts from TVA funds originally budgeted as receipt and flow through the county to the designated recipient, Kindle. Funds will be received directly by Kindle. Be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of the County of Henderson, Commonwealth of Kentucky, Section 1, the budget for fiscal year 2018-2019 is amended to decrease the receipts of the Economic Development Fund by $50,000 to include unbudgeted receipts from account 314508, which is the TVA Economic Development Funds, by $50,000, and decrease the expenditure account code 315075-507, which is the Regional EDC Kindle, by $50,000. The amounts adjusting the receipt and expenditure accounts in Section 1 are for governmental purposes.
Make a motion to
So
approve
moved.
that.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Any other questions on those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. At this time, we ask any members of the audience who'd like to come up and speak for the good of the county to come forward to the podium, and please tell us whatever you'd like.
Judge, I'd just like to update the fiscal court. Yesterday, we closed the Cairo Hickory Grove Road for start the demolition and the construction of the new bridge on that road. That's our 80-20 program bridge. And so that'll be closed for about 5 weeks, weather permitting, on that case right there. Second thing is, last Friday, we had FEMA and KEMA in the county again with the renewed damage of this year's flooding events. The inspection went accordingly. We will be receiving damages that are for the work that was already done from the 2018 flood is what will count. We won't get 100%, but the work that was already previously done will qualify as damages or any additional damages beyond the 2018 flood. So, and we're starting on clearing the roads right now. Started yesterday on that, and both of our motor graders will be on the roads starting this afternoon, and we'll be grading and repairing the roads and the bottoms for the next several weeks.
Our gravel roads, to be specific. Yeah.
Correct. Any questions?
No, thank you for all you do, Bill.
Appreciate it.
They've got a lot on their plate right now, no doubt.
Yeah, they do.
Anybody else for the good of the county? Mike? Please state your name for the record.
Michael Hazelwood, EM40 Company. Judge Snyder, fellow magistrates.
Mike.
Kurt. Last year, we were granted the opportunity to quote on the county's insurance. We appreciated that opportunity. We provided a quote that saved the county about $14,000 and had significantly higher coverages in liability, terrorism, sexual abuse and molestation, additional boiler machinery, third-party harassment. We were also about $68,705 cheaper in cost than the previous year, the 2017-18 policy year. I don't know really why we didn't get it. I think they had some good relationships and a little political pressure possibly. I just wanted to ask for the opportunity to quote on your insurance again.
Well, that was an extensive process, and for those of you who weren't here as part of that process, it took a while. We carefully considered all the factors involved beyond just price. I noticed that, for example, the deductibles were different, and the company you were using had never done business in Kentucky before, so that was
No,
an
they
X
had-
factor.
They had done a lot of business in Kentucky.
Well, with county governments, we're not aware of any.
Yes, they did represent county governments.
We were not aware of that. I mean, Tokyo Marine you'd said that they were newly established in Kentucky as far as county government insurance.
They actually own the company that you write your workers' comp reinsurance with, so.
For property and casualty, though.
Yes.
Well, for workers' comp, but anyway, the members of the court were a lot less familiar with that company, and we'd had good experience. They said we had good experience with Keiko. It was such an exhaustive process, and I mean, I don't know what the good of the will of the court is. We're right in the middle of budgeting season. The last time we did this, it took several months to arrive at final quotes and then work through those. If you'd like to do this again before, again, we start budgeting next month. So I'd be happy to, or we can put that off for another year.
I mean, I wasn't here that last year, so I don't really know about what
Well,
went on.
Charlie, just it was a long, drawn-out process for sure. Bottom line was we were happy with Keiko and the service they get that we get from them. And like the judge said, it wasn't just about the money. I said, but even as it said, you heard Rob Brown say you're going to get money back at the end of the year, I think, which offsets some of the difference that we had been paying in premiums. But the last court was unanimously in favor of staying with Keiko.
Okay.
They just seen convenience. You call them, they're here the next day or the day after. There was just a lot of exceptions, more than the money.
And of course, we are a Keiko member, so we have a stake in that too, and we appreciate the offer to quote it. I mean, unless somebody would like to instigate that process now, we can perhaps open it up next year. Think about doing that. But Mr. Hazelwood did a lot of work on that. So did Mr. Brown. We appreciated the information we gained from that process. But again, we're a little late in the budgeting year too for that, seeing as how much time it took last time.
It really won't take that long. I have a lot of my information already.
Well, I'll unless anybody would like to move forward with that prospect this year for this fiscal year, I'd say we would wait.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Your premium was reduced for the 2018-19 year by approximately $68,000. Is that savings going to remain? Do you know where your renewal is going to be?
I believe Mr. Brown said it was flat year over year.
Okay. Do all county governments, did it go down for all county governments, or did it just go down last year for?
Would Mr. Brown like to answer that?
I think across the board, the premiums were virtually flat for the membership.
What I'm saying is last year, your premiums were reduced by 13% with increasing the coverage. Did that happen across the board with your other Keiko members, or was that just specifically to Henderson County?
Mr. Brown can answer that.
If you do recall, we went back and
Could you mind speaking in the microphone? Keep it on the record.
sorry, specific to that question, we did go back and do a comparable for the deductibles, as you'll recall, and you all wouldn't know this, but the proposal that was presented from Mike's carrier was substantially different in limits and deductibles. So with much higher deductibles than what our program's standard limits are. So we did go back and revise those limits, the deductibles up to better give an apples-to-apples comparison. And we actually did an exhaustive study of your prior 10 years' losses within the various aspects of property, autos, law enforcement, all the claims that you'd had, and tweaked our deductibles around to where you got the most advantage of premium savings to low deductibles. And so for you all, yes, you did see a reduction. I think across the board, our members saw virtually a flat premium last year, and that's plus or minus within various groups. And there's a lot more variables that go into the premium than just deductible. There's loss experience, there's exposure change, new autos, new law enforcement. So it's hard to kind of comparable to you all versus other fiscal courts.
Any other questions?
The KCO program, everybody has the same rates, correct?
I think you just said there's variables from county to county.
I think everybody has the same rates, unless there's variables as far as exposure variables. We have more property, autos than possibly Union County, but I believe everybody has the same rates. So, I mean, I'm coming here as a local person who last year quoted $10 million liability against KCO's $3 million of liability, $10 million worth of sexual harassment, employment practices liability against their $3 million. And I provided a savings over the previous year of $58,000. And I'm asking as a local person, taxpayer, to quote your business.
Well, we'll take that under consideration.
When you say local, the insurance companies, where are they located?
Well, my insurance agency.
I know that yours is, but the company that'll be writing the policies, are they located?
They're located in Houston, Texas, and Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the same. They actually reinsure you currently through your workers' compensation company. Your company's KCO purchases reinsurance, just like all insurance carriers do. But and Lexington, Kentucky is one of them. Keene was our other local market.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else for good of the county? Yes, sir.
Judge, Magistrates, I want to thank you for the approval of the SOTEX renewal for the courthouse and for the Judicial Center for all the service that we provide. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And also, SOTEX has just now hit the ground running with a new, we've entered the realm of first aid, and you'd probably be amazed on how many business owners have no idea of the compliance of their business. And I really would like to ask who would be the person for the municipalities of Henderson that we could set up a meeting to provide some literature and to discuss the first aid program for the courthouse, for the Judicial Center, for Henderson County Road Department, just all of our partnerships for all of our Henderson businesses. Because it's something we feel very strongly that we can have a competitive nature against our biggest competitor, which would be Centos, who pretty much owns the first aid realm, and we really think that we could be really competitive at that, and we just want to put our name out there on a competitive offering.
I think the person to contact would be both Bill Hubiak, who oversees the maintenance of all of our buildings, and Sheriff Brady, too, I think, who would have some input on things like first aid kits in certain locations. So Bill Hubiak and Sheriff Brady, and if you want to come back with a proposal at a future date.
What about EMS?
Well, do they need first aid kits?
I don't know. I don't know.
I would hope they would have first aid kits on an ambulance, but I would think initially Bill Hubiak and Sheriff Brady.
Okay, great. I appreciate that.
Okay.
When could we expect for the agreement to be signed? Is that something that I would pick up today, or would our regular routeman pick
The
up
one
on
we
the
just
day of
the one we
service?
just voted on.
Yeah, yes, sir.
We will get it to you today in some form or fashion.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Anything else for good of the county from any members of our audience? Master Southern, good of the county? Anything?
All's good.
I think you heard Mr. Hubiak say we'll be jumping on the gravel roads, especially in the bottoms, as quickly as they can. I know there's a fear the river could rise again. Hopefully not. There's a lot of rain in the forecast, so fingers crossed. Magistrate Moran.
All's good in the second district also.
Magistrate Putman.
Thank you, Judge. All good in the fourth.
Magistrate McCullum.
Well, there's something I'd like to bring up, and it concerns our financial. There appears to be that people think that we've got so much money, and because we got this $10 million. In 1987, 98, the county didn't have enough money through the year. They had enough in the budget, but you have to have a certain amount of money for cash flow because your taxes come in November, and we got a big bunch of taxes that come in the spring now that we didn't have then. But you need $3 or $4 million just for cash flow purposes, and so this $10 million sounds like a lot of money, but what my point is, it's not. And I think some people have some misconceptions about it. I think we as a group need to be conservative and take care of it so we don't have to come back and ask the taxpayers for more money. I don't want to do that. The building across the street, I think we've had some problems with the roof. It was built in 2002, I believe. It's got a 20-year roof on it. That's going to be several hundreds of thousands of dollars. This building the roof was redone probably 10, 15 years ago. It's going to be redone. Bill Hubiak has left. We got over 400 miles of road, and we're not putting enough miles. Blacktop lasts about 12 miles a year. I mean, about 12 years if we're lucky, if it's all done right, and the water's drainage out from underneath it. You look at what we're putting into the roads, and we've cut that back over the last few years because of our financial state, but we're not putting enough money in to maintain the roads, okay? If our retirement, right now, if I've added this correctly, we're paying $1 million, almost $800,000 in retirement, and that's about 24% that we're paying. If you divide that into 24, and if you saw the newspaper article, I think it was either Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, or maybe day, I don't know, talking about what's going to happen to health departments. Our health department, if they go to the 83% that the state has said, they don't give them an exemption, in 2 years they'll be gone. They don't have any more money than that. I'm on the health department board, and they don't have the money. And I don't know what the state is doing, pushing all this stuff down to us, but it's going to be a hardship. But if my numbers are correct, if we go to the 83%, and that's where we're heading, it's over $6 million a year that we're going to have to pay. So this $10 million is a pittance. If people think it's a lot of money, they're mistaken. And I just think it's important that we start recognizing that before people, I don't know. I've got a burr under my saddle, and I'm sorry. But I just wanted to bring that up.
I appreciate that, and I would argue that meant that was about $700,000 as little as 3.5 years ago, and it's not even $10 million. We always try to keep $2 million set aside for cash flow at all times, so it's really 8.6 that we consider to be true reserves. And one of the things I was determined to do after being appointed was to make sure that all the various instances and issues that came together to really put the county in a ditch financially 3.5+ years ago would not happen again, especially the furloughing of employees, the reduction in services, the failure to keep our equipment safe and functioning would not happen. And the best way to do that is to build up a healthy reserve, not a overly conservative reserve, but appropriate. And we're at 40% of annual operating expenses now with our reserve.
Dave Ramsey said it should be 6 months.
Well, so we got a little ways to go, maybe, but I appreciate your comments, and I'm glad.
I don't mean to offend, because you've done a great job.
The court and our department heads did a good job of helping us establish that. And that reserve is there to protect our employees, to protect the people of this county, as you mentioned, by not putting undue burden on them through tax money simply to make up for our potential mistakes.
Yeah.
To protect the county against potential natural or man-made disasters, and do it in a way that is immediately available to the county, funds that are immediately available. There's lots of reasons to have a strong reserve, and I'm glad we do, and we're working on that still.
And if you don't, back in '98 and also again I think in the early 2000s when we had the ice storm and the snowstorm, by being able to correct things and had the money to do so, we got 90-something% of that reimbursed by FEMA when we had those things. If you don't have that money and you can't do it, you don't get reimbursed. I mean, you eventually have to pay for it. But so having those reserves and having the ability to do things in an emergency is just, in my opinion, utmost important. We've got to continue to do that and keep what you're talking about, the money there for those purposes. And I do appreciate what you've done.
Thank you. Master Barry.
I'll thank the sheriff. The ordinance is only as good as the enforcement, and I'm glad he's on board to enforce that Ohio Drive. They need a lot of help down there, and I know you know that. Thanks, Sheriff Brady. Everything's good. We got a lot of work in District 1 to do because of the flooding, and Bill Hubiak will work on that. All good.
Mr. Gold.
All things are good. I was out at a conference last week, and I think I've waded through all of my email yesterday, and I think I got all of it returned, but should be back up to full speed. So if there's anything you need from the county attorney's office, just let us know. We'll get it taken care of.
Thank you, and I will add that our subcommittees on reviewing the administrative code of the county and also the county ordinances are now underway. We're going to slowly but surely work through those and see if we can't update and make both our administrative code and our book of ordinance more relevant and effective. And so we'll keep you posted on that. Just to let you know, on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock at the road department, we'll be having our next meeting of the Volunteer Fire Department Committee, which meets on a quarterly basis to review with the chiefs how our volunteer funding program is going with them. It is an open meeting, 8 o'clock Saturday morning at the road department. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I beg your pardon.
Oh,
Judge.
no, you're right.
I've
We need a motion to go into executive session.
We've got some pending or threatened litigation, so because of that, I'd make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C, which are discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the public agency of the county.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And before we do this, we're not going to take any action or do anything else after this is over. We'll adjourn, just come back and adjourn. So
Right. That's all we'll do.
Okay.
Thank you.